think we had an official land acknowledgement yet. I thought we were still voting on that.
At the last meeting.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Asian.
If you'd like to go, you can go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and call this Board of Supervisors and the Board of Fire Department joint work session to order. It's 5:03 on Monday, November 13th. Board of Supervisors, its committee and subcommittees are subject to the Alaska Open Meetings Act as found in Alaska Statute 44.62.310 and Anchorage Municipal Code 1.25 of public meetings. Board of Supervisors operates under the Girdwood Public Meetings Standards of Conduct. As we start our meeting tonight, I would like to read our land acknowledgement that the Girdwood Board of Supervisors acknowledges the indigenous peoples of Alaska whose land we reside on. The community of Girdwood, situated between the areas known to be Dena'ina and Olympic homeland, respects the people who were stewards of this land for generations. We commit to the continued stewardship of this land and are grateful to be part of a wider community that seeks to maintain a sustainable use of Girdwood Valley for present and future peoples. Our roll call is going to be very short. I am Jennifer Wingard. I am co-chair of the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, and right now our other Girdwood Board of Supervisors are MIA, but I would like to acknowledge we have Chief Weston on the phone. Would you care to add to that introduction?
Nope, just thank you for having this work session. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but I will be there tomorrow in person. So thank you. Thank you for having the work session.
Okay. And in the room from the Board of Directors, we have Paula Buckman.
Very dangerous.
Thank you. All right. Well, to start with, let's talk about the, first of all, I suppose I don't have any disclosures that I know of, and since I'm the only one here, and you guys, it's not an issue. So we're done with that. Does anyone have anything they want to say about the agenda? Does anyone have any objections to us accepting the agenda as is? Hey. May we now have Mike Edgington entering the room as well. I'll have you introduce yourself when you sit. The public is encouraged to ask questions and provide comment. Please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged normally. I think in this situation, to speak. To help discussions stay productive, please direct your comments to the board rather than other members. And again, I think we can keep things more casual here and be respectful of everybody's opinions. Mike, did you have any objections or changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay.
Objections.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, in that case, do you need a moment to situate, or are you okay if we jump right into reviewing the budget for fire?
Like that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to rush you.
I have done that 4 times.
Oh, I've been
I treatment.
I'm wondering if Cindy is coming, because Cindy had said she was coming as well. So I'm just kind of wondering. I don't have a text message I don't have ability to text her. Maybe I'll try and shoot her an email.
Yeah, I think the last I saw on Facebook, they were out of electricity where she was.
Oh, okay. That explains it. Hey, yep.
But I will look and see if I have her. Or Larry might.
And then I just heard from Guy, and he's going to be here in a second or two.
Okay.
Got to spell it right for.
I'm pretty sure Amanda is probably traveling somewhere because Coast Beats is closed for the month of November.
I don't know.
I don't have hers either.
And Sarah Howard was traveling back from Hawaii, so I'm not sure if she's back yet. All
right, so the fire budget, do we have Kyle, is that,
I can bring it up.
yeah.
Yep.
Mike, we decided to dive right in since it's a work session. I get concerned about quorum.
And then I don't have the ability to post to add things. So Kyle's running the show in terms of visuals you get to see.
Yeah, let me bring that up. So, oops, I forgot to share it. Okay, you see that, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay.
So what you're looking at is the fire budget. And we've split a lot of some of the administrative positions 50-50 between fire and EMS. We added in the retirement contribution, and then, oh, there's a guest waiting to join there. And then health insurance increased, but that is reflective of the fact that we have more staffed shifts and less reliance on paid on call staffing. Other than that, nothing's really no other big surprises in non-labor. Non-labor, the only big change was that we were, and if you want to scroll, we were going to replace the gas meters, which are dying. We had one die recently, and instead of replacing it, I'm just going to tough it out until January. So other than that, that's basically the fire budget. No big surprises there. Our workers' compensation liability insurance basically stayed the same. The only change from this year was the increase in health costs. Again, that's because we had more people. In terms of staffing, as of the October payroll, we had our payroll costs were up to the end of October, 923,216. And of that, $864,915 were staff, and 58,301 was paid on call staffing. So we do have a larger reliance on staff shifts, but I think that's providing better standards of cover. As we've talked about before, a standard to cover by NFPA 1720 should be 6 people on initial response. And so we are much better at meeting our objectives when we have 6 staff positions in the fire station at 24 hours a day, and then augment the other 3 with paid on call. Additionally, we headed into the September months with 68,288,000 in our grant account. We do have some payments that have to come out of that, but that's where we're at the moment. And then in September, we headed into the month with $725,395. So we are sort of going along, and I think we're going to be at this moment right on budget. I am waiting to hear from Christina for the last month's reconciliation, but I think we're going to be at least sort of trending very close on budget.
Yes.
So Michelle, you said that you have 6 full-time staff. I know we staffed up for the summer months.
12 staff. I have 12 staff.
12 staff.
I
But
have 6 our initial staffing, like for any response, NFPA, the national standard is to have, for our level of coverage, is to have 6 for initial response. So the goal for any response is to have 6 people head out the door to the response for the initial call. That would meet the intent of 1720. And so that's staffing for a volunteer standard for a rural area. And so we have 3 people on every day. That would be an engineer position, a ALS position, and then a station officer. And I'm talking about ALS, even though that's part of the EMS budget, just because they are part regardless, they're part of the component of 6.
Okay, so you have 3 on at all, every 24 hours. You have
Yes.
3 full-time in station. Okay, that's all I just wanted to verify.
And then this was a comment that you brought up before, Paula, about how do you meet your 6. We do have, we have, and if this was AFD, I would have 4 people per 3 per position. We don't have that built into the budget at this moment in time. So like Deputy Chief Garhart takes the shift on Monday as the station officer. And then if we have people who want to go on leave, then we're usually covering it by overtime. So we're lean by staffing standards if we were staffing it properly, but we're still meeting the objective.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
And
are there any other? Go ahead.
And then I just want to say that just a huge thank you to the board and to Gbos for supporting the staffing model. I can tell you, since we staffed up this summer and sort of put everything into place, the stress level of the responders has gone down because the staffing level is better. And going on a call and having 6 people there or 7 people there, the proper number, it seems very decadent at times, but that's the number that we should have had, all the time. And so what has happened is we've had 3 cardiac arrest saves in the past month or so, or 6 weeks, let's say. And, that's cardiac arrests are codes are labor intensive, and you need 6 to do a code well. And so it's been wonderful to, show up for me as a chief, to show up on a code and have 6 people working the code, right? Not including myself. And so amazing. And I think that by having those 6 and by your support, we are doing a very good, it's a good thing. And I think that it's a good quality or level of service for the community.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Chief Wesson. Do we have any other comments, questions, or anything on the view of the 2024 budget?
I do really quick. So is that center column that's shaded? Is that thank you. Fire 2023. Okay, thank you. That's what I just wanted to see. Okay, so we went up $6,000 from 2023.
Non-labor.
Non-labor.
Yeah, which was, and that is in entirety, that is the gas meters, gas detector replacements.
Okay, thank you. And aren't those a capital item though? Are they not?
Actually, your increase on professional services, Michelle.
I'm sorry, my brain.
Here in operating
That would
expenses.
have been audit. It would have been
Okay.
audit, which we were then budgeted for, and we have not, to my knowledge, been able to yet secure a financial auditor for this past year. So I'm hoping that hopefully we'll retain someone to do both years at once.
Okay, and that was our request, the BOD request.
Yep.
An audit. Okay.
Yep.
And Paula, we did, when Chief did present her original budget, it had capital items in it, and we pulled those out.
Okay.
We put them towards capital requests, which I think
Separate.
Or we worked through for 24.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mostly turnouts and gas meters and things like that.
And then a couple we pushed to EMS, right? Like mud rescue tool replacement, things like that.
Just to show here, you see an increase for the loan. So we're preparing for starting the payments of Engine 41, but Engine 41 won't start payments until it is actually completed and we take ownership of it, which is great because right now we can start saving money and then hopefully build a capital fund so that we'll have less of a loan by the time we pull the trigger on owning it. So the 104 was what we were based on. We didn't know this until we got done with budgets, but we thought that was going to be our first year payment of 104 for the new engine. But now we can take that and put that towards funds that were been raised for the engine, the down payment that we put down on the engine too. So we will hopefully receive that a year from now.
I think that according to Chief Schragi, as of 2 weeks ago, he mentioned that they might have jumped ahead in the line, and so engine 41, which we were expecting to see maybe around December, January of 2024, December 24 or January 25, might now come earlier, which is new information. So it might come in, let's say, July to Anchorage, but then we probably wouldn't see it for a couple months. So we might have it as early as September in service. That's new information. And then Rescue 41, we do not have, and that was supposed to be in service probably by December of this year. We don't have an update of when that's going to come in yet, but it's definitely not coming in December. But I'm, again, super happy that for the support of both Gbos and the board for replacing those two apparatus, because the theme of October was watching rescue and engine go back and forth every week into the shop for problems that they were breakdowns. So it's definitely, we've hit that moment of time where you have that older vehicle, which you love, but then it starts to just fall apart on you.
All right. Thank you, Chief Weston. Do we have anything else to add on this?
Quick question about Rescue 41. Is that still with the manufacturer, or is that in
Still with-
Anchorage?
Oh yeah, way still with the manufacturer.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have an ETA.
No.
Saw
No.
it.
Oh,
We saw it for the cab.
Oh, right. So part of it exists.
Yeah.
yeah. Part of it. Yeah. The good part exists, but not the rest of it. So
Depends if you're driving it or being rescued by it.
Yeah.
Good person back if you.
All right. If that is all on this item, we don't have anything else to add to this. So we can move on to discussing the MOA 2024 area-wide budget for EMS.
okay. I believe Kyle also has that. So we were flat funded for this next year, which was, part of the mayor's decree to keep everything flat funded. And Assembly Member Johnson has reached out and is possibly doing an amendment to add some funds back in. So that will be coming up at a assembly meeting. And if that does come to pass, we'll see if it can survive the floor of the assembly and the mayor's veto.
You know how much of an increase that they were looking at maybe doing?
The full 160 that I'd asked for.
60. Okay.
But I haven't had I truly have not had a chance to look at the work session. If the work session was recorded, to see at the work session recording from last Thursday, I guess it was, to see if it actually made it in. But Assembly Member Johnson has all the information from me.
I can speak to that, Michelle.
Okay.
The amendment was presented at the Assembly work session last Thursday. Nobody commented on it. Nobody spoke against it. Nobody actually spoke for it either. So it was just mentioned as one of the proposed amendments. There's now a period where they may combine amendments. So we may we'll probably have a smaller set of amendments by next Tuesday, when the Assembly is going to talk through and vote on them.
Okay, and then I did let my counterpart, Chief Fisher, know in Chugiak, just in case they also were going to ask for an amendment. They weren't at that point in time, but in case they do, just if there was the power of both the Chugiak Assembly members as well. So I did let him know. I haven't heard back if he is, if they are putting anything in or not.
Right. Anything else on that?
So just the standard questions, Chief. So this is, for what level of service is this designed for? What budget is this, what is this providing in terms of service, this level of budget?
So my plan is to, my plan is not to decrease having ALS on 24 hours a day. So the service level will continue the same for next year. And then if we run out of money in November, which is what I told the assembly that we might in my written comments, then we'll ask for a amendment. But again, EMS has been flat funded for the past number of years. And so I don't think going backwards okay, my strategy is not to go backwards in time and reduce the level of service to meet the budget when we're right now finally achieving the right standard of coverage. So I guess next November, we'll have to have possibly a discussion if we are short. I'm not going to change. So in other words, it didn't make any sense to me to reduce the staffing level of the department to try and meet a budget at this time. So, but maybe we'll have more cost savings throughout the year to try and meet and absorb the impact if it's flat.
So the additional 160,000 is not for staffing to be ALS or?
It's mostly, it's staffing, it's
Right.
fuel costs, as I pointed out to Assembly Member Johnson, why did EMS go up? Well, it's been flat for a number of years. Fuel costs go up, controlled substance costs go up over years. We have increased health insurance costs, which we split between fire and EMS. That was significant. And then we want to have IV pumps, which is something that we are not, which would be an increased cost to the budget. So there's all those things. So. End of report.
Do you have any other comments or questions on this item?
Got one more question, but I can probably keep it in the next section.
Okay, should we move on to the 2025 budget process and participation?
Sure. For 2025, just sort of if we look at the crystal ball of things that are coming up, right? Like we've done the big apparatus purchases. Woohoo! We've got 2 command rigs in service. Woohoo! Right? Or almost in service. The big things that will come, other than the normal wear and tear on turnouts and replacement of that, we've done the hose and appliance and nozzle replacement to bring it up to new standards. We've done that. So the only other thing that's going to be looming out there for us in terms of big capital items is we have to do a radio replacement in the next 2 or 3 years. Initially, we're going to do it with Chugiak and APD, and it was going to be an area-wide bond. Then APD found funding, or the municipality found funding for APD and not Chugiak and Girdwood. Then in the last month or so, Chugiak decided to use some of their service area funds and then use 200,000 of SEMT money. The money we used both departments got 200,000. We used ours for the command rigs replacement versus taking it out of the service area. They used theirs for radio replacement and then matched it with, I think, 150,000 of service area funds. But they're still short radios. So unfortunately now we're going to be sort of standing alone trying to replace the radios. So that's going to be my federal budget request or grant writing for next year. So there's that item. Other than that, 5 to 10 years, if the resort plans go as the big new plans all happen, then I would tell you that within 5 years, we should be planning for a ladder truck, or a smaller ladder truck, not a giant ladder truck, but a small sort of platformer ladder truck in Girdwood within, to come on to play in 5 years, or let's say. And then after the radio, assuming in 2000, we know nothing is happening to the industrial park in 2024, according to the HLB. In 2025, if they get their plat done and they plat out the municipalities or the service areas tract, and we then consolidate and move on to that tract with our fire training props, then 2025, the grant that we should be writing for should be for the fire prop for that, assuming we figured out the radio situation by then. So so those are the big things that are kind of coming up. Obviously, if there's a ladder truck in play, then that moves a lot of things around. And then there's other discussions that have to happen. But those are the big things that I see sort of looming out there that you might not be aware of.
Yeah, Larry.
So on the subject of ladder truck.
Mhm.
Maybe,
But-
provide a little more elucidation on, what does that mean? What's a ladder truck cost, and what staffing is required in addition to what we currently have?
So I would argue in 5 years, right? Then you would probably need a ladder truck. And that would be, I would say, 4 people. And it would be a large ticket item. So it would probably be a $1.5 million smaller ladder truck.
And
That's assuming that this whole new Whistler-esque resort base type thing appears by the resort, right? So that's what I'm basing that on. And and buildings are getting taller. So that's kind of, but not a large ladder truck, like a smaller platform truck.
Right, but still,
1.5 in our cost now. So, in 5 years, it'll probably be more like a $2 million thing.
and an additional staff of 4, is that correct?
Yes, I would say 4. For a truck company, I would say 4. So yeah, so I mean, that's a big significant jump in service level. And who knows what the lay of the land will be in 5 years. But I would expect that maybe in 5 years, that's where it might be going. The other thing is maybe there's an opportunity that a ladder truck could be shared with another jurisdiction to the south of us, depending on what happens in Whittier. I don't know what size truck could get through the tunnel, but maybe there's an opportunity to share a truck there. But that's sort of like big picture things. Big picture things. And I know it was always a thing Chief Chadwick wanted. I've and Larry, we've talked about this. It seems like a big thing. It is a big thing. It's traditionally not something, if you're a volunteer chief, you really want to have a ladder truck. You want to have the tool, but you don't want to have everything that goes along with that in terms of training and liability. And we have roads that, have snow issues. So, there's a whole bunch of other things that have to sort of play into the whole big decision. But, maybe 5 years out, we might have to have this discussion.
Well, I guess my premise would be, I believe there are construction methods and equipment within the building that can forestall the need for a fire truck or a ladder truck, which is how we built the current hotel.
Yeah.
And I would say from a board's perspective that, that a developer requiring that level of additional cost to the community, they need to bear that cost because it's not required in very many other circumstances. At least that'd be my premise. And then, and if that's the case, you know, it may be more economic to build a building such that you don't require a ladder truck. And in the case of the hotel, what we did was, we have pressurized, stairwells that are refuges that are, you know, and we have, alarm system that's a higher level of alarm than, you know, so basically it's called a high-rise package. Because, you know, New York City, you know, you don't have a ladder truck that can reach, you know, 100 stories. So, so there's other ways to accomplish the safety of the occupants. And I think that would be something you'll want to consider. Because one last thing, do we have a bay at the fire hall that would actually hold a ladder truck?
So I believe we do have a bay that would actually fit the ladder truck. A smaller ladder truck, not a big monster ladder truck, but a smaller truck. I think that we do have one. Obviously, we would have to go down a tender or so and move stuff around. So is it a perfect thing? No. Is it more just something we have to throw to put in our little, we have to just have that discussion at some point. I think all your points are very valid. My personal opinion would be to not want to, would be to, you know, we just have to recognize that the closest ladder truck is at station 12, which is on Diamond. So, you know, it is what it is.
Right. Well, again, for instance, the hotel, even if you brought a ladder truck down here, you couldn't reach very much of the hotel anyway, because one whole side of it, you know, has either a pond or it's not accessible, you know, dry. And one end of it has a whole bunch of trees in the way. So there's only a very small portion of the hotel that's even accessible to a ladder truck. So there's a whole lot of issues related to how that, you know, how you implement both design, site prep, you know, a number of other things, you know, which is why, of course, you have, you know, appropriate review. And I'm not 100% sure that, you know, those kind of reviews take certain, I guarantee you they don't take place in a land use environment.
Correct.
It's a big fire marshal process.
The state fire marshal, I would really question whether they would catch that.
Yeah. And
I've been through a bunch.
Yeah. And, you know, we have like a hangar. Now, I'm not picking on anybody, but we have like a hangar, condo hangar, which doesn't have any sprinkler system in it, right? So, you know, we have a different standard when it's going through plan review with the state than when if it was going through plan review with the municipality. So
Right.
just FYI, as you know.
Is that hangar more than 35 feet?
Yeah, well, it's not, I don't think it is an issue, really. I guess it's, I suppose maybe from.
I'm not using the hangar as an issue for having a ladder truck. I'm just using that as an example of, wow, there's a lot of money in a hangar that isn't protected by a fire suppression system.
Right. Thank you.
That's the risk the owners take.
Exactly.
Anyway, okay.
That was a very interesting discussion. Thank you. And Larry, I really appreciate all those comments about keeping an eye on how things are built before we get a liability thrown in our lap, because there's part of the idea behind this whole meeting was just noticing the steady increase in the fire department budget and putting a ladder truck in there, especially since we just committed to this Engine 41, which commits us to, I think that's 10 years of payments, right?
Correct.
So that's a significant increase already as it is. So anyway, Mike, did you have anything to, oh, sorry, Larry.
Yeah, well, one of the comment I would make is that, at least historically, you know, and at other times when talk about the fire department, the cost of the fire department is that, you know, looking at it from, you know, from your insurance ratings and what that, you know, what a point or two, you know, a level or two difference in ISO rating, what that has, you know, on a community or insurance costs. And at least it's been many years, I think, since that analysis has been looked at, but it is a way to essentially gauge what's more efficient Because in the end, that's what's talking about is dollars. So, and you pay either an insurance company or you pay taxes, but that's really what you're buying is cheaper fire insurance. I mean,
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
not
yep,
convinced.
correct. No, you're absolutely correct, because when we do the ISO review, they ask us about, it's all about staffing and what apparatus you have. And there's, a matrix of calculation. And then also they ask, on your past fires, how many people initially responded and all that stuff. So yeah, you're right.
Because we still have neighborhoods here without fire hydrants and other things that seem like a bigger issue than ladder truck.
Oh,
like
correct.
every-
Absolutely. Absolutely. If we could get water extended down Alyeska Highway and Old Girdwood would have water, that would be amazing.
And pressure at the top of Echo too.
Yeah.
Pressure
And
at the
pressure.
top of that.
But I thought pressure at the top of Echo was being fixed by that lift station that's going in across
Yeah.
from Echo.
The new station's going in on Vale that's gonna eliminate 2 stations, and then they will apply enough pressure to the top.
However, it's unclear whether hydrants are part of that project or not, because it's a private department, not a Haywood.
The hydro assessment that we might have to have.
Yes, there may be hydrants.
Thank you. Very informative. All right.
I've got a couple of questions.
Yes.
Just for my own education, what height structures and buildings do you provide fire service for now? When does it become a problem?
Well, we have a 36-foot ladder, which is
6 feet.
so 36-foot ladder is what we have, assuming you can get it out and it works and all that stuff. I mean, there's high risk involved with going up a 36-foot ladder, for what it is. So that's what we have. So any, some of the houses that have these 3rd stories and that, some places that I look at in town, I think, well, that's going to be challenging if somebody needed to get out of that. But it is what it is. And then there's also the factor of snow berms and, things are never where they want them to be when you actually have to ladder a building.
The first question, my second question is about radio. Sorry.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. My second question is about radios. So the figure you gave, is that for radios across all apparatus and, the complete set of radios, because the EMS vehicles are owned by Area Wide.
Correct.
So those radios would be paid for by the Muni, and the fire department would be paid for by us, the service.
That's how I interpret it. And I brought that up in the meeting 2 weeks ago when Chief Fisher mentioned, oh, surprise, I actually paid for my radios out of service area funds and that. And I said, well, did you pay, is EMS going to pay for area-wide EMS? I asked Chief Shruggy going to pay for the radios for that. The 6 radios there, that in their 3 medic units. And I didn't get any, there was no sound after I said that. So my assumption is yes, that area-wide EMS pays for those area-wide vehicles. But still, we're talking about like 80 radios. So,
Did you say 80? 80?
yes, I said 80.
Okay.
At around 6,000 a pop. So I have to be a really good grant writer next year. So, but it's not it's just we have obsolete radios, and when AFD replaced their radios, they didn't replace them for area wide, which seems to me like a missed opportunity. And then, yeah.
So
I would say if there is any more SCMT money coming, then that's what we should use it for, right? That would be a good use of that. Given that we've, taken care of the other issues, most of the other issues. But I believe for this next year, as any SEMT money will be used for a replacement RMS system across area-wide EMS. So basically a replacement patient care writing database system. And then for that, that actually is a good thing for us, because although the municipality is 2 different versions of data ahead of us, they never replaced ours. So we're still back in the 20-year-old Wayback Machine for our report writing. So it will be a good thing if we actually all get, wow, let's think about it, area-wide EMS, we all have the same patient care writing form. That would make sense. So if AFD is able to actually get that through and use that money for that, that is actually a good use of that money.
Okay, but I mean, we're still in the situation where the EMS service, if there isn't funding coming from area-wide, then the EMS service we're providing area-wide won't be on radios that work the rest of the system.
Yes, but obviously, see, my plan up until 2 weeks ago, when Chief Fisher said, hey, we decided to buy radios, is my plan was that Chugiak and Girdwood would go together in an area-wide bond to replace all the radios, right? So Chugiak just decided to do their own thing. And then the other thing that we were both, Chugiak and Girdwood, were going to implement the IV pumps in our ambulances. They're not being implemented in Anchorage because they don't need them because they have short transport times. But Chugiak got a grant from the mayor to buy the pumps. So now that sort of put a kibosh on me doing a area-wide thing for that too. So yeah, it is what it is.
Okay. So is it fair, just so I've got my number in my head. So is it fair to say if you've got 80 radios that need to be replaced, is it a 50-50 split between area-wide EMS and service area reasonable, or should it be a different ratio?
AFD might argue that they will only, okay, AFD might, I would suggest to you, argue that they'll only replace the radios for rescue, the 2 ambulances and utility 41. So they might, so no, they probably will argue that it's not area wide, but I will argue that it's all area wide, because if 75-80% of our call volume is EMS, it would seem like we'd be using those radios, right?
They're arguing we only the vehicles get radio replaced, but not the staffing.
Right. So
That makes sense.
it's definitely going to be an argument, right?
Yeah.
So, and so how did AFD pay for their radios? Fire service area bond. So awkward.
Yeah. Okay. But then there's this weird thing of the AFD service area is almost area wide.
Right. Yeah, they used it. They used a fire.
90%,
Yeah, they used a fire service bond to pay for the radios. So
But
awkward.
we're back down to this fundamental problem: the way EMS is funded is broken.
Oh yeah, totally. Well, just like them saying, well, we'll approve, you can have, I'm sorry, I'm not being negative. It's going to sound negative. When you say, when you get, you're like, yes, you can have, IV pumps, right? That's awesome. But no, we can't fund them out of area-wide EMS. Well, really? It's, we want you not to be in your fire turnouts, but to be in your medic turnouts because of cancer considerations. But, we don't have funding for you for EMS turnouts. I mean, it's like the system is broken.
Can I go to Guy now? Is that the end of your question? All right. Guy, did you want to have a question?
Just one more real quick, just out of curiosity on that ladder truck. What's a small ladder truck get you up to beyond the 36 foot?
I would have to look. I can't really commit to that. I mean, it's a steadier platform. It's a stable platform. You can also run a water supply off of it, right? So that's probably the biggest benefit, is you can run a water supply off it versus a monitor off the top of the engine.
Yeah, I can imagine using just a 36 foot ladder that isn't, stable or hooked to something. So
yeah, I have only once was on a condo fire in Girdwood, one of the condos at the resort base, and I was up the 35 foot ladder in snow, snowy conditions to get onto the roof. And I don't think, because we don't do it all the time, I don't think it's a great thing to have paid on call people doing, 30.
Yeah.
They are scary. They're very scary.
Yeah. I think we're
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah.
I mean, they balance.
Right,
So that, but that's not to say that ladder trucks don't also have their problems too, because, AFD had somebody training on the ladder truck and fall off of it and have a serious head injury that lasted, that it was a career ending event basically. So they're, anytime you have height, water, tools, there's always an issue. But the ladder truck could be very possibly useful if you were doing a quick save of somebody, if you could get everything in place in time. I mean, it's all depends on the situation. So.
Thank you.
anything else? Guy, did you have anything else to add?
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Right, and any other comments or?
Subject to the process of budget. This year we had a delay, I think, between when the board of directors approved the budget and when supported the budget, when we GBOS had to deal with it. It might be worth just talking through the timing there. You can kind of, how we should do that next year.
Yeah, I think, and we'll once again send out a schedule, but it'd be good. I think there was a delay, just trying to get the board together to review Chief Weston's budget for 24. So hopefully next year we can get it so that it just all syncs. And so we had a delay approving the budgets. We wanted to make sure that the fire board approved of it before GBOS approved. So I think next year we'll try to get ahead of that with Chief and get a schedule out so that everybody knows. It's hard, everybody's doing things, and we do this budget cycle right end of summer, trying to be ready for assembly process and OMB. So catching people is hard to get a quorum together.
It's a bit odd from a GBOS point of view as well, because our job is with people paying it rather than people supporting it, advocating it. We end up in this situation where we sort of end up in both roles. If we can get a situation where the board of directors kind of owns the budget and presents it with the chief, and then we respond to it, that just clarifies things a little bit. So we're still obviously going to be supportive, so it just makes things a little bit easier.
Thank you for bringing that up, Mike, because I think that was actually one of the reasons behind wanting to do this meeting here tonight, and then we do have a separate agenda item. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
If I could also say, I think that having, a work session like this, but earlier.
Yes.
But so that in particular, the board can understand what what's driving the costs. And you can see that it's labor, but it's, when you look at, NFPA, levels of service that, the department is attempting to reach, but always, seems to be just a step or two, short of it, but that's certainly the goal. And then competing basically with, with all the other fire services in the state, maybe beyond the state, which is one of the reasons why the department trains so many people, is that, because, we do have a good training program, but we're the training grounds for a lot of other departments. So we're competing, on wage levels with, both at the paid on call as well as on staff. So it's important, I think, that the community understand, essentially the levels of service that it takes to, to meet NFPA standards. And you have to ultimately say, yes, that's what we're telling the department to do from a taxing perspective.
maybe for recommendation for our agenda minutes here is that we have a joint meeting on that first work session. Because we do 3 work sessions with GBOS, and so maybe that's a joint time. And that allows for Chief Weston to present the budget to both bodies at once, and then you guys, the board, fire board, can go work on it, and GBOS can consider it. And then if there's any changes, we at least will know, have your input by the time we get to probably work session 3. And then final approval, which is usually about a month later or a week later, kind of depends on schedule.
Can you provide me the dates for those, just so that we know we can build that into our board of directors schedule?
Yeah, we'll get that.
We didn't have it built in, and I think that was the problem. Us trying to get together when we didn't know we were supposed to get together.
We can give you a sense of it right now.
That's fine, yeah.
I'll just pull back on it because we also schedule it by finding time that we can get a quorum together.
It's usually August. So
We started our first
So-
work session was, let's just see here. This was in July.
that in July?
In late July, we did the first. work
Okay.
session.
All right,
First is late July.
late July.
Yep.
So I just have one quick question about that, Kyle. Do you think it would work to combine that? Because we usually end up taking the whole 2 hours on all of these budget sessions, it seems like. But do you think that would work?
Well, yeah, we might just have to be,
Or just?
usually the work sessions, the first one is, definitely a general overview of what we're getting into, and then we dive into more details as we go forward. So I think it'd be a good time to do it, knowing that we're going to have fire, and fire is usually one of our largest discussions, and then Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's probably a wise time to do it. At least try to do it at that point so that both, especially for Chief Weston, she can give the whole description on the same page as to why her budget's this way for that operating.
Okay, so first session is late July, second session,
August.
August, and then when is the final? that
We
you
usually
have to
do it
have?
about a week out before I'll just look here real quick. We'll pull this up. This one was, a week before GBOS's regular meeting, because they.
So we're done and finalized by mid-September.
Okay, so final mid-September.
So August has to come out from the administration beginning of October. So
Okay,
September is about the latest.
so that's the latest.
Yeah.
So early September would probably be better.
Well,
Have all
from the
books of-
board perspective, it is a little bit tight. Like if we had the joint meeting in July, then oftentimes we're having our next budget session just a few weeks after that. This goes, I think, pretty quickly. Maybe not the individual meetings, but we have our 3 meetings and boom, we've finalized things in September, and we're, it's from beginning to end, it's a month, and in this case, it was a month and a half.
I think going to the first work session might be beneficial because truthfully, it's a lot of the same questions.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Any other comments about that? Thank you for bringing that up, Mike. All right. Unless I am missing something, I believe that we are at the end of our business agenda. Do we have any, unless anyone has any public comment? I do have public
I want to
comment.
throw something else out on that discussion. It relates to a discussion we had previously at directors meeting. So there is a possibility, and I do not recommend this, I'm just saying there is a possibility. Within service areas, you can provide new services, but you can also provide enhancements of existing services. So if at any point area-wide EMS comes out and explicitly says that, Goodwood is not going to be funded at the level of ALS, or funded BLS, for example, there is at least the structure within code of us providing another service to enhance what's provided area-wide. I don't think we should go down that path, but it's there, it's a possibility. And I just wanted to throw that out there as something to consider in the future. If we keep on getting stuck in this EMS funding problem and we cannot find a long-term solution, that's one way which can be established as a threshold. No
Well,
question about it.
and that might come up if, I hope it doesn't, right? But it might come up, Chief Stragi has been very direct when he says that, our service contract requires us to be BLS and we're providing ALS service. Now, we provided ALS services for 60 something years. So why would we not provide ALS service, right? But when we don't have, when both ambulances are moving and we don't have and we don't have a second, they're not sending down the third an AFD ambulance to do a station move up. That is because even though we might pay into area-wide taxes, there is no expectation that Girdwood has a staffed ALS ambulance available. So I think that would be where this would come into play, if things turned out, if things went weirder.
I know you said you had a question, because I wanted to kind of piggyback on the thing is we are providing area-wide EMS with no contract. So really, there's nothing in writing saying what we provide versus what we're supposed to provide. And so, I mean, and I know, Michelle, we've had this discussion before. You do want to go forward not without a contract because of the way the municipality wants you to do a contract, which would be no price or fixed price. I can't remember. But
So,
anyways.
Yeah. So just to refresh everybody, it was, we'll give you a contract if you want to set costs, but it's only for 1 year only. Or, you sign a contract that doesn't have a value in it, and we refuse to sign a contract that has any escalator in it.
So anyway, a contract is what sets expectations of what should be provided at Girdwood. We don't have that, and we haven't had it for a few years now. So I don't know if that may come back to bite us or not.
Yeah, I mean, we have a description of what's expected.
A vague description.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no expectation.
draft.
Well, and I will tell you, when times have been tight budget wise, and I've said to them, you need to tell me what you want to do in the rolling brownout. What days do you want to have service and not have service? You need to define the scope for me now. They won't do that, right? So yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting arrangement.
The argument that, that you're not contracted for BL, just for BLS, that makes Girdwood or everybody, south of Potter Drive a second-class citizen.
Yes.
Exactly.
Which is just total bullshit.
And the same with brownouts. You can't not provide medical service if someone needs it. You can't just not.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, it's kind of in the, you have the police where, you had that whole discussion about providing providing police on the highway and us paying for it. I think EMS is kind of saying, do we just give medical to, or yeah, you just can't have brownouts for medical emergency service.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it doesn't, it doesn't make any sense from a logical. Now, I will tell you, during the last 3 or 4 days since the snowpocalypse happened, I told the Kenai Peninsula Borough that we would not be responding to Turnigan Pass because we didn't have the capacity to do it. So we were pushing back on that. So when they reopened Turnigan Pass, we were saying, well, we don't have the capacity to respond. And then Hope also was snowed in. So know that I do decrease service level based on, what things are going on. So, but that's outside of our main service area.
And it's also driven by administration. So this
Yeah.
next 8 months is going to be very interesting to see what happens and what leadership we have.
And then it can change all over.
Yes, you have different motivations and different factors. So. and-
Understand.
Well, I want to be super conscious of time, but I also, real quickly, Chief Weston, I had, in piggybacking kind of on what Mike and Paul are talking about, I would think maybe it would be easiest if I touch base with you at some point about, I'm a little unclear on the ways in which or ideas about dealing with this EMS funding system and what we could or cannot do about it. But it seems like that might be better outside the scope of this meeting. Would that work?
Oh, yeah, sure. That's fine. Yep. Yeah, but know that if we do run out of EMS funds, then in November or whatever, I'm literally gonna go say, okay, Anchorage Fire Department, tell me what you don't want me, when days you don't want us to be there, right? So that's the way we play you don't want to define the scope or fund us appropriately. So just tell me when you don't want to work like any other contractor. But yes.
All right, thanks.
I think we have an immediate task in front of us, which is to try and support the amendment for the extra 160,000. Which is in front of the Assembly next Tuesday.
Yeah, and I'm not banking on I'm not banking on that amendment passing, but I'm gonna obviously give it as much as we can to try to get it passed. So, but I think like any assembly amendment, they vote versus who's in the room. If there's a bunch of people in the room, I think, and people have written them letters or submitted written comments, I think that is what helps sway them versus just me submitting written comments. So
Given that, it's gonna propose a motion. So I propose a motion, resolution in support of the additional funding. That's a budget amendment. I think the wording is fairly straightforward. I think we have to have the wording in front of us, but
When is that coming up?
it will have to be in front of the Assembly. Well, really, we need to have it by Friday so we can go into the meeting packet next Tuesday.
So we do have to do it now.
But yeah, I think we can vote now. I think the wording is straightforward.
You can't, you're in a work session.
Yeah.
Oh, right, of course, work session.
So Mike, is there a public hearing next Tuesday?
Yes, yes, it's public hearing.
Okay, and they're also taking written comments?
Yes, you can do written comments at any time in this public hearing as well.
Okay, so my challenge is I can't on social media put out lobby requests for them to fund the amendment. But somebody else could put out on social media to fund the amendment with the link to written comments. But I can't do that. I can't lobby for my own amendment on my social media.
Yeah,
Just
we also have
Because
land use tonight, and that would be a logical thing to bring it up in land use as well. But
Oh.
yeah, that's a good idea.
we're just bored.
and it really just has to be a bunch of people like writing an email, sending it to the email, right?
Okay.
So, especially those second homeowners that also have Anchorage properties that have dual assembly people.
That you need social media for. They don't show up for land use.
No,
Okay,
but they did show up in mass for the resort plans.
that's true. That's true. All right. Thank you, Chief Weston. Anything else for tonight? I just saw word that the school is asynchronous again.
Another remote learning day.
Oh, kids, they're so fun.
At least I'm not chasing that bus at 6
But at
a.m.
least this one, we actually had, most people had internet. This is.
Yeah, last week we had no internet.
Just a joke.
I'm not sure they aren't kind of
Thought they
joke
couldn't
worthy.
be learned.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're not kind of joke worthy anyway, but okay. If that is everything, if we have no public comment, I believe we can adjourn.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So Mike, is it specifically, it's a